Hey, it's Vanessa, the Crafty Gemini, and in this video tutorial, we're making hair ties with scrunched up fabric. All right, let's jump right into our project by first going over supplies. For the fabric, I'm working with a fabric that's super stretchy. It stretches in both directions, so crosswise grain and the lengthwise grain. And this measures 3 inches by 22 inches. This fabric is called Bullet, or you can use a Liverpool. I like to go with something that's a double knit, so it's not quite as flimsy as a thin single jersey knit fabric. We do have kits if you're into these neon colors that you can purchase from our online shop for a limited time, so I'll include the link in the description box for that. The elastic that we're going to put inside is a length that measures 9 inches, and we're just using 1/4 inch wide elastic. You'll need a large safety pin so we can feed the elastic through our scrunchie. And then you're going to need pins or clips or whatever you prefer to hold your fabrics together. And if you're wondering about this little box that I used to keep my clips in, I do also have a free video tutorial for this that I'll link to in the description box. For thread, we do need something that's going to match or blend in easily with our fabric because there is a step where we're top stitching on the exterior and we want those stitches to blend in so it's not as noticeable in the finished project, okay? So I have a hot pink thread, hot pink fabric, the elastic, the safety pin. Now, as far as our sewing machine goes, you want a machine that can do zigzag stitches. Because we're working with stretchy fabrics and elastic, we don't want our stitches to pop when you stretch out your scrunchie and wrap it around your ponytail, right? We want it to stay intact. So we'll need some zigzag stitches in order to achieve that. Now, for the sewing machine needle size, if you have a ballpoint jersey needle in a size 80-12 or 90-14, you can put that in. But otherwise, I have found also that an 80-12 universal size needle works great for this project. So gather up your supplies and let's get started. The first step is to lay your 22-inch long strip of fabric with the pretty side facing up. On one of the short ends, I'm going to turn it under by 1/2 inch, like that. So you're turning it under towards the wrong side of the fabric by 1/2 inch, and then just hold it there and fold your strip in half lengthwise with pretty sides touching. You can put a clip on this side right here just to hold that. And then we're going to put clips down this long edge, matching up the fabric edges. Now we're going to head over to the sewing machine. We're going to select our default zigzag stitch, and we'll stitch down the side that is clipped at 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you're going to go all the way through here to where you folded it to make one long tube. Now I'm going to set my machine to a regular zigzag stitch, and then I'm going to adjust the length and the width a little bit. The width, I don't want it to be quite as wide as my default setting, so I'm going to bring it down to 2.6 in the width, meaning the zig and the zag this way. And then the length, I'm going to bump it up to 2 millimeters in length. Now if your machine also has a lightning stitch or a stretch stitch, that would be perfect to use here also. We're using about 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to back stitch, okay? And I'm using blue thread here so you all can see what I'm doing, but remember to use something that matches to the fabric you're using. Now we'll take our safety pin and we need to turn this tube right side out. So on one side, okay, of the fabric only, I'm going to run my safety pin through close to the end and close it up. And then I'm going to pull and turn it and push it into the tube so that the head of the safety pin is inside here. And then I'm just going to push and turn out fabric all the way till the head of the safety pin comes out on the other side of my tube. And there's a lot of different tube turner notions and stuff out there. If you, whatever you have that will work to do this step, you can use that. I just like to roll the fabric out of that seam. All right, so there is our tube. Now let's grab our 9-inch long piece of 1/4 inch wide elastic and let's feed that through this tube. All right, so I have my piece of elastic here. I'm gonna run my safety pin through the end. Be careful you don't poke yourself because it's kind of narrow. And now we're going to start feeding this in through one end. When you push this through the same way that we flip the tube out, you'll see, because the elastic is so much smaller, if you have another safety pin, I like to just poke the end through here so that as I'm feeding it through all the way to the other end, I don't mistakenly pull my elastic all the way through. So I'm putting the safety pin through the fabric and the elastic itself, and then just close it so that it holds it in place for you. Then I can continue pushing it down through here. All right, so I have elastic here and I have elastic on this end. We need to stitch these two ends together. Now, we're only working with 1/4 of an inch wide elastic, so it can be a little fidgety if you're not used to doing something like this. You can also tie it. If you try to zigzag it and it doesn't work, you can also tie it. So here's what I'm going to do. I move this safety pin further down through the fabric and elastic. So I have the fabric out of my way and I can work with this end of my elastic. I'll do the same thing on this end. Careful you don't let it go and it goes inside. So I'll scoot the fabric back and again put the safety pin back. So the fabric is out of our way. We can easily grab these two ends, overlap them by about 1/2 of an inch, and we're going to stitch through them back and forth using a zigzag so that it holds these two ends together. Now, if you think that going one way and then back the other is enough, I would recommend you do it at least 3 or 4 times, because this is where the wear and tear is going to be applied as you're pulling and stretching the scrunchie over your ponytail. Now, we did several tests to come up with the right measurements for this fabric and this elastic, and so these scrunchies you can wrap around 3 times on your ponytail, even for those of us that have a lot of thicker hair. So if you change up the fabric or the elastic or the measurements, you'll need to work it out yourself if you're changing up the math. All right, so overlap by 1/2 of an inch here, and let's set it to our zigzag stitch. All right, so I set my machine to the default zigzag setting because I want it to be a little wider this time. I'm overlapping the ends, and I'm just going to place a clip there. Whoops. This can be a little fidgety because it's such a narrow elastic. But I'm just placing the clip to hold this under while I position it under my presser foot. All right. Looks good. Put my presser foot down. And it doesn't have to overlap super perfect, but you do want to make sure that the stitches grab from both ends enough. And then I'm going to reverse zigzag all the way up again. And I'm going to come down and back one more time just to make sure that everything is really well secured for the stretching that's going to happen. All right, let's cut our thread. All right, and that is very well secured. So now we can remove the safety pins. And all we have left to do, one of your ends, remember that we turned under by 1/2 of an inch, so there's no raw edge here. This is the one that's going to remain on the outside. The other edge that was still fresh cut, all right, you're going to tuck that fresh cut end into the one that was turned under. So just push it in there and make sure that you catch a good bit, you know, between 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch of fabric so that it doesn't slide out from you. And you can feel it. So I can feel that everything is good in there all the way around. Now we're going to top stitch through all the layers, our elastic and all the layers of fabric that are, you know, one inserted inside the other with a zigzag stitch. So for this, I like to go bigger because now it's a lot bulkier. So I'm going to do it in blue thread, but remember, this is because it's going to show on the exterior, so you want to use a thread that matches. So normally I would use a hot pink thread here, but just so you see what I'm doing. I'm going to lengthen my zigzag so it can more easily feed through all these bulky layers. So let's go 2.8 millimeters in length and 3.6 millimeter width. So I've left it at the default width, but lengthen it a little bit to space it out. So I'm doing one zigzag. Let me do some back stitch here, and then I'll come through to help feed this through. And I'll back stitch at the end also. That's it. And there's your scrunchie, no stitches popping. And because of the length of the fabric, it's nice and crumpled up. It doesn't look as loose like that. I like my scrunchies to really look scrunched up. All right, so there you have it. A quick and easy, fun way to make fabric scrunchies using elastic and some stretchy fabric. Remember, if you want to grab some of these kits that we've put together for you with this neon bullet fabric, we'll include everything you need, including the safety pin, the elastic, and the fabric. We only have a limited number to go around, so if you do want to grab one, either for yourself or to give as a gift to someone that you're teaching how to sew, this would be a great beginner project. The link for it is in the description box below, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.